Family is Providence. Thanks for tuning in. And Kanye West, someone who I've spoken about on this channel before, has recently confessed that when he was a child, he engaged in a homosexual, incestual relationship with his younger cousin, at which point, for multiple engagements, he was engaging in oral sex with his younger cousin. The tweet says, "This song is called Cousin, about my cousin that's locked in jail for life for killing a pregnant lady a few years after I told him we wouldn't look at dirty magazines together anymore. Perhaps in my self-centered mess, I felt it was my fault that I showed him those dirty magazines when he was 6, and then we acted out what we saw. My dad had Playboy magazines, but the magazines I found in the top of my mom's closet were different. My name is Ye, and I sucked my cousin's you know what till I was 14. Now, obviously, this was a bombshell information. This hit the timeline kind of crazy. There was a lot of things happening on Monday when this joint dropped. I mean, God rest his soul to the Pope. Then we heard some stuff about Shannon Sharp, and then here comes Kanye talking about what he was doing with his cousin. I was like, whoa, what are we doing here on this Monday? But that's besides the point. I want to take a look at this tweet, and I think that when we look at this tweet, there are some common themes that we can show that I think give a lot of clarity as to why Kanye West is the way he is. And I think it gives us a better picture into the person that we're dealing with. I mean, I think obviously we all look at the Kanye West that we see now, and while it is reprehensible, repulsive in many ways, a lot of the things that he has said, people don't just wake up one day and decide to say terrible things or act out in terrible ways. People are a byproduct of a lot of things: their genetics, the circumstances that they grew up in, the trauma that they experienced. A lot of things shape people's belief systems, interactions with people. And I'm not saying that any of this should excuse what we've seen from Kanye West, because there is no excuse ultimately for a lot of the things that Kanye West has said and done. But I do think that two things can be true. Someone can say repulsive things and do repulsive things, and then have felt and had things done to them which are repulsive, and they themselves have trauma, because as the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. The thing that I think about when it comes to Kanye West is that I believe that with these tweets, he has begun to really dig deep into his life and to think about why he is the way he is. Kanye begins the tweet by talking about his cousin who is locked up for killing a pregnant woman. Now, I decided to do a little bit of digging to see if this could be verified in any way. And it turns out that he had actually been speaking about this cousin multiple times. And I found this article that mentioned that while discussing prison reform with Mark Howard, the co-founder of the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice and head of Georgetown University's Prisons and Justice Initiative, Kim Kardashian revealed that Kanye's cousin has a double life sentence for a murder that he committed when he was 17. So Kim Kardashian has really been big on prison reform, and she had actually mentioned Kanye's cousin. So I think that adds a little bit of credibility to this, because I think a lot of people, because Kanye has been sensationalizing a lot of his tweets, saying the most provocative things, people were questioning whether or not this is true. And I think that this shows that, you know, Kanye didn't just whip out. Now, the story could still quote unquote be false, but, you know, he has spoken about a cousin that's been locked up before, or there's been evidence of this. And the one thing I'll just briefly say about Kanye, because again, to respond to the people who say Kanye might be lying about this, Kanye West, I think, is a person who has deeply flawed beliefs, thinks things that are not godly in many ways. But I don't think that Kanye ever intends to deceive people. in the sense that he intentionally lies. Now, has Kanye ever told a lie? I'm sure he has, right? Has he ever tried to lie to us? Maybe. But when I read Kanye's tweets and his statements, Kanye West might have a flawed belief, but he genuinely believes it. And he thinks he's right. And he thinks he's trying to teach the people who listen to him what the correct way of thinking is. Now, he's very much flawed in a lot of ways he thinks. But I don't ever read Kanye and think, oh, this guy is trying to lie to us or deceive us or troll us. Like, Kanye's not trolling. I think Kanye, again, is there a little bit of sensationalism and stuff like that in what he says? No, but I think by and large, while there might be some of that, yes, he actually believes what he says. And so I don't think that Kanye West completely fabricated this story for clicks, views, or impressions on Twitter or anything like that. No. I think he, at the very least, genuinely believes it happened. Now, whether or not you want to say that maybe his mental state, he made it up, but like, I severely doubt it. But back to the tweet. So we know that there is a cousin that exists that did commit a crime and was locked up for it. Now, he says he told him that they wouldn't look at dirty magazines anymore. And I guess that's when he got to be 14 years old. So we don't know. He doesn't say for how many years this had happened, but he was 6 years old. Not Kanye, but his cousin was 6 years old, acting out what they had seen in these magazines. Now that's heartbreaking. That is very sad to hear that two children got access to these, what probably look to be gay sex magazines, homosexual sex magazines, and they acted out what they saw. I mean, children should never in a million years be exposed to this. It was, from all accounts, we've heard that Donda was a good mother, but I mean, he says that he got this by his mom's closet. So he's low-key confessed. I don't want to say threw his mom under the bus, but he's basically said, yeah, my mother was looking at gay sex magazines, men doing whatever they were doing, and I found those magazines. So with all due respect to Donda, she definitely dropped the ball there. And unfortunately, it led to Kanye and his cousin being able to see things that they should have never been introduced to. And yes, they were young and dumb. They had no idea what they were watching, and they reenacted it. And apparently the experience was a pleasurable experience to them, and they continued to engage in the experience until Kanye was 14. And I would imagine by that time he's starting to get a little bit of common sense and understanding of what they're doing, and the innocence behind it goes away. And at that point for Kanye, it probably turns into guilt and shame and regret that this happened. But what ends up happening is Kanye very clearly says that he felt it was his fault that his cousin ended up in prison. He felt like he said he calls himself self-centered mess, which, to be honest with you, this is the first time I think Kanye has ever recognized how self-centered he is, because Kanye West, as far as I'm concerned, is the most self-centered person I have ever observed. And I've said in my previous Kanye video, Kanye is the person that I have seen with the biggest God complex ever. Like, this man has called himself Jesus, Yandi, God. He thinks he's him. Okay. Kanye is a narcissist at the highest level, and he 100% is self-centered. The most self-centered person I've ever seen by far in terms of what he articulates about himself. And so it's interesting to just even see him call himself. So at least he has some idea that, hey, I'm absorbed with myself. Like, I am a self-absorbed individual. So he took He called it was his fault. He said it was his fault, and he's essentially blaming himself for, I guess, his cousin's corruption. His cousin became corrupt as a result of the sexual experiences, the abuse, that they were kind of, I guess, co-abusing each other. I don't even know how you want to look at that. Kanye's a little bit older in that situation, but he's still a young child. And so they're doing this co-abusive kind of situation, and his cousin ends up committing murder and getting a double life sentence. And Kanye West is saying, yeah, that's kind of my fault. Like, maybe I corrupted his soul, corrupted, who he ended up being because of the sexual encounters that we had until I decided to break it off. Now, another reason why I think that these tweets, or this tweet by Kanye West about his cousin is accurate is because it fits themes of previous tweets that he's spoken about regarding his family. If you remember this tweet, he tweeted a couple weeks ago. He said, I thought about unaliving myself at least once a month ever since my mama was killed in her surgery. I always blamed myself. This past 5 weeks have been the first time I haven't wanted to unalive myself since my mama died. And so we see Kanye West here saying, I blamed myself for my mother's death. Like, Kanye West, he became rich and famous, and I'm assuming his mother capitalized off of Kanye's wealth, and maybe she decided that she wanted to get surgery. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but Kanye West thinks that, man, if I hadn't become who I became, maybe she wouldn't have wanted some cosmetic surgery, right? And so, but we see Kanye West doing the same thing, and we know that this is facts. His mom died during surgery, and he's blaming himself for that too. And so we see Kanye West blaming himself for what his cousin became, blaming himself for what happened with his mother. And so this to me is showing a pattern of like Kanye West feeling intense guilt and shame about what happened to his family members, his inability to protect them, how he may have led them astray. And I think that, to me, another reason why I think that his tweet about his cousin is true is that we see this same reflection about what happened with his mother. And so the question is, man, how is this impacting Kanye today? I think we get tremendous insight from these tweets into why Kanye West is the way he is. Now, I'm not going to say that everything is a result of the trauma that he's had with his cousins and his mom and the divorce with Kim Kardashian. I do think that Kanye West genuinely has adopted false ideas, but there is a huge correlation between the trauma that you experience as a child, especially if it's sexual trauma, and your mental emotional state. It's been well documented that people have all types of relational issues, emotional issues, bipolar, and it's linked to sexual trauma. And so the situation with his cousin is correct. That is something that could very well validate or explain why it is Kanye West is part of the reason why Kanye West is the way he is. I would also say all of this guilt and shame that Kanye West is feeling about misleading his family or causing the issues or causing the death of his mother or causing his cousin to probably go to prison, that could show us why Kanye West kind of acts out in the way that he acts out. Kanye West might have even taken it upon himself, even in some messianic type of way, right, to lead people to the truth, right? Like, I don't want you to be misled like how I misled my mama or my cousin, or cause their downfall. I want to actually save you guys. Like, this guilt and this shame of causing his family's downfall kind of makes Kanye feel like, I gotta rectify that. I gotta I gotta make up for that. I gotta atone for that. And so Kanye West speaks his own truth as boldly as he speaks it because he thinks it's the truth, because he has to make up for the guilt and the shame of failing his family, you know? And so we've seen Kanye West be religious. We've seen Kanye West say all kinds of things. And in his own flawed way of thinking, he thinks this is how I make up for the fact that I didn't protect my family. And also, too, if you think about why he's so upset about the situation with his children and not being able to see his children or be a father to his children, this, I think, opens up some insight into this as well. Because if, you know, like if you remember, right, Kanye West being furious that North was on TikTok and North is wearing makeup and kind of being sexualized at a young age. Well, if you're Kanye West and you knew the sexual abuse or co-abuse or whatever it is you want to call it that you experienced when you were a child, wouldn't you be hyper active in trying to protect your daughter? Because in your mind, it's playing off the fact that, yo, I know for a fact that I went through some sexual trauma when I was a child, and I don't want my daughter to have to go through that. And so there's this feeling that I think that Kanye West has. And again, I'm doing my armchair psychology. Okay. I'm just putting pieces together, but I'm thinking about this and I'm like, man, why you see this man going so hard for his kids? Well, because he didn't feel protected as a kid. He didn't feel like he protected his cousin as a kid. And so now he's thinking, well, I got to protect my kids. And why is Kim not allowing me to protect my kids? You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just thinking it makes sense when you kind of look back and you think about all of it. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that I'm not speaking into their domestic situation. Like, I don't know it, right? And Kanye West has done a lot of things, if I'm going to be honest, where I would wonder if it would be a good idea for Kanye West to be around his kids. And that might seem like it's a harsh thing to say, because as much as I never want to see any man, especially a black man, not around his kids, like Kanye has been very irresponsible. He's been irresponsible. And Kanye wants his children in his life, but every day he gets up and tweets things and says things that make you think, yo, keep his kids away because this man is not thinking straight. And so I'm just thinking, like, Kanye, if you really want your kids around you, you're not giving people confidence that you should be an influence in your children's life. You're actually countering the very thing that you want done by your actions. I think that should probably be your greatest motivating factor to chill out in some of the things you're saying and doing. But I digress. I think that some of this stuff is showing why Kanye West is the way that he is. And so, again, I want to be clear. I'm not making excuses for Kanye West, but I do think that we should be sympathetic. Kanye West done been through some things. He's experienced a lot of things. Again, I want to implore Kanye West, you have more resources than 99.99999% of the people on the planet. Commit yourself to getting help. Like, I just wish that Kanye would just go, seriously, critique your own self and recognize I need help, and do whatever it is it takes to follow through on it. That is what I want for Kanye. My prayers are with him. I hope that he finds the healing that he can find. I know that many people will never forgive Kanye West, and that's fine. Ultimately, he needs forgiveness from God, and ultimately, we want Kanye West to be the best person that he can possibly be. And so he needs healing, and we should be rooting for someone to be healed, even if you don't like that person. Even if you say, I'm done with Kanye, he done said a bunch of racist, homophobic, whatever it is you want to say. He said a lot of things. You should still want to see Kanye West because he's a person like you. He's a human being like you. You should want to see that man thrive as best as he possibly can. So I'm praying for Kanye West. I want to see him do well. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far in the video, you are literally the GOAT. Please like and subscribe to the channel as I continue to try to grow the channel. Thank you so much. It's been Providence. I will see you guys in the next video.